Hello! This is review video number 1 for Modern Music Appreciation. Hi, Dr. McGrath here, and I want to help you ace this exam. I know some of you even missed the first day of class, and if you missed last week's class, we already did a bunch of review, but I'm going to review again in a video format so you can rewind and play, and so we can make sure that you do well in this first exam and have a good start to the semester. The other important thing to realize is that the information in Unit 1 will be used all throughout the semester. So if you have trouble in this material, you're going to have trouble the rest of the semester until you really get it. So, crack down, get this stuff ready, and you hopefully will fly through the rest of the semester without too much difficulty. Now, I hope you know that you were supposed to have read through to Chapter 4 by now, and all the information I'm going over is in the book. So please look along with the book and print out a copy of the term and concept list that I've provided on Blackboard, and go ahead and fill in and answer the questions that I've written on that list, and you will, I guarantee you'll do well in the exam if you really prepare that information. I try not to trick students. I try to be really clear with what I put on the exam. Okay, without further ado, Chapter 1. So in Chapter 1, one of the first questions I can tell you right now is about frequency and about pitch and about sound vibrations. If you look on page 7 of your book, you'll see that's exactly what this is about. And I want to mention too that in the back of your book, what you'll find is a glossary, and almost all of the terms that I list in the concept and terms paper review sheet are listed in your glossary. So go ahead and go through there when you're doing your definitions, because sometimes the book isn't very clear with a definition in the chapter itself. So make sure to do that, please. So the first section of Chapter 1 talks about sound vibration. And we know that there's a difference between noise and a musical sound. Like if I scratch on something, or if I hit this, oh, look. I'm not really getting a single pitch. I almost am here. But basically, to get a musical pitch, we need a focused vibration. We need a focused sound. And that can happen in many ways. We can pluck a string or blow air through, create a vibrating column of air. There are all kinds of things we can do to produce a concentrated wave, which will produce a pitch. Now, what you need to know is the highness or the lowness of that pitch is equal to the highness and lowness of frequency. So, in other words, something that sounds high will have a higher frequency or higher pitch, and something that sounds low will have a lower frequency or a lower pitch. The thing to remember also is that the smaller the vibrating object, the higher the pitch. The larger the vibrating object, the lower the pitch. I mean, just think of a tiny little piccolo as you're playing a piccolo. It's very small and it has a very piercing, very high sound. Or if you're playing a big double bass, plucking the strings, that's going to have a really low sound. Or tuba is going to have a low sound, for example. So remember that. Now also remember that the official measurement of frequency is cycles per second. It's how quickly that wave is going. Now, that doesn't mean how fast it's going out, because there's a certain speed basically that it moves out and strikes our eardrums. But I'm talking about the frequency of the wave. And so that is measured in cycles per second. Remember that. Don't be confused. It's a scientific measurement. Okay. What else do you need to know for this portion of your exam? Gosh, I think that's it. Pretty easy, huh? Frequency. What pitch is. Highness and lowness of pitch, and what creates it. That's all you need to know for that portion. Next portion of this chapter is on dynamics. Now remember, dynamics, that's the musical term for the loudness or the softness or the strength of a note. Okay, so if I'm going to talk really loud, I'm using very loud dynamics, strong dynamics. The scientific term, I'm going to give you a moment. You tell me, come on, I'm listening. What's the scientific term for dynamics? Amplitude. So greater amplitude means louder. A smaller amplitude means quieter. It's pretty easy. Makes sense. Okay. Now, here's another question. What language is usually used when we're talking about terms in classical music that describe the loudness or softness of the notes? What language is used? What language is used? Come on. Italian! I love Italian. It's so beautiful. Okay, well, Italian are the terms for dynamics are almost always in Italian. And I want you to also be familiar with some of those terms. Let's start with the two most general terms, soft and loud. Do you know the word used to describe soft? Piano is the answer. Good, some of you had that right. And the term used for loud? That's forte, F-O-R-T-E. Now remember, this exam is multiple choice, so you don't have to be able to spell these, but later on you will be using these terms. So I do want you to feel confident in pronouncing them and writing them down and definitely using them in your concert reports, which are due at the end of the semester. All right, so we've got piano and we've got forte. But is that all we have in classical music? No way! We use a huge range of dynamics in classical music. So, some other words that you'll need to know. Well, you'll need to know that if I put a special thing at the end of those words, I can affect them. If I put issimo at the end of piano to change it to pianissimo, what I get is very soft. It adds to the strength. If I add issimo to forte, I get fortissimo, and that means very loud. Okay, not so bad. It's kind of a neat thing, neat little trick that we can use that. Another word you'll need to know for dynamics is mezzo, M-E-Z-Z-O. Mezzo means medium, and I can use that before a dynamic marking to mean, well, medium. So mezzo piano means medium soft. Mezzo forte means medium loud. So if I were to go through dynamics from softest to loudest with just the general dynamics we've described thus far, I would go pianissimo, piano, mezzo piano, mezzo forte, forte, fortissimo. And then I've got a nice range of dynamics that can be used in classical music. And classical music really uses these. I know, if I show you I'll have to do that sometime. I'll show you some music that I read as a musician, and you'll see that it's covered with dynamic markings. It's one of the things that keeps it really interesting and something I want you to be listening for when you're doing your listening assignments. Okay. Now, another few words that are important with dynamics include più, which means more. Più. P-I-U. Think about Pepe Le Pew. Pepe Le Pew tries to be a cat, but he's stinkier than a cat. He's more stinky than a cat. Okay, so più means more. So if I say più piano, I mean more soft. If I say più forte, I mean more loud. So it just basically is the equivalent of more. Another word that can qualify our dynamics is mezzo. We already said mezzo. Sorry. Did we already say mezzo? Yeah, of course we did. We already went over mezzo. But hey, I was just checking to make sure you remembered that. Mezzo. Okay, another word that is on my list is, my list is over here, I think. Nope. I don't know where my list is right now, but I know this stuff. Another one is subito, which is suddenly. So if I say subito piano, I mean suddenly soft. Or subito forte, I mean suddenly loud. So that's a very important one used for dynamics as well. Okay, another thing to remember is that dynamics just aren't at one single level. We can gradually get louder or gradually get softer. Gradually get louder, gradually get softer. And we're affecting our amplitude, right? The scientific term, or adjusting our dynamics. What is the word that means to get louder? Crescendo. You got it. Crescendo means to get louder. Okay, and the way that that's written, it's written as two lines that gradually separate to show loudness. It's funny, the camera's flipping this around, so it looks confusing to me, but you know what I mean. And that is on your book on page 9. Decrescendo means to get softer. Or another word for that is diminuendo, and you should be familiar with both of those. All right, the last thing in this chapter that you have to worry about really is tone color. And tone color has to do with the quality of the sound. Tone color is really important. My voice has a certain tone color. And boy, you're going to be getting sick of it pretty soon probably. But you wouldn't just mistake my voice for your mother's voice, or your father's voice, or for your friend's voice. You know, we recognize people's voices because we grab onto that tone color that makes it what it is. And that has to do with overtones and how the sound is actually produced. The fancy word for overtones, the scientific term is partials. So you'll need to know that. All right, the other word for tone color is timbre, but you know what? I don't even think I put that in the exam, but it's nice to know. The only other thing in this chapter is duration, but you know what? We're going to talk about that in chapter 2 anyhow. So basically, we're done. That's 10 minutes almost, and we've covered the entire chapter 1. So if you missed anything, go ahead back, listen to this, but make sure you look at the concept list as well. Okay, I'll see you soon as we go over chapter 2. Adios.